Kezzabelle, how are you?
Good morning.
How
I'm
lovely to
great.
meet you. Really lovely to meet you. I, yeah, I've already had a little bit of a look around um,
Ooh.
your your website and just a sneaky preview because I haven't met you before, so I was really curious to find out a bit about you, obviously, because we're going to do an interview as well. But I'm
Yay.
really already highly intrigued because I love the subject matter of a couple of the YouTube videos that I saw at the on your website. There's one something I will not be buried. Was that one?
I will not be buried. Yeah. Inspired by a Mexican proverb. They tried to bury me, but didn't know I am a seed. They tried to bury me, but didn't know I am a seed. And I wrote it it was a January when I was struggling. And I was a bit low, and I felt as though there was a lot of stuff being thrown at me and a lot of stuff to work out. And I was doing a workshop with some young uh, kids about 10 years old, that sort of age. And we were about in the house and we were looking at the herbs and all the different things and sitting on this land that where all sorts of things had been happening for 300 years and imagining sort of, oh, who's been here and who's walked here. And yeah, and this was one of the inspirations.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was such a really nourishing. I mean, I guess that's a word associated with the soil, isn't it? It seems
Mm,
was such a
yeah.
nourishing start to the day when I was having a little look before I started speaking to you, and I thought, oh, that's gorgeous. It's really invigorating and rejuvenating and strengthening. So,
Mm.
yeah, Kezzabelle, tell us more about your background. Tell us what I saw, yeah, that performance poet is how you would identify yourself. Is that right? But there's
Yeah.
also, I know you creative writer. Well, that would be performance poet, creative writer. But tell us about your background and what you're kind of into and how you got started.
Well, if you want to go way back, the first poem I wrote was when I was 12 and a half. And I wrote this poem and the teacher put A plus. It's like, yes, A plus. But then she crossed it out and put underneath, is this all your own work? And,
Oh,
didn't believe I'd written it.
oh,
And I didn't write another poem for over 30 years.
oh
So
no!
I know. So I always say to people, be careful how you use your words because they're powerful. Words
Oh
are power.
my!
She could have lifted and encouraged me.
Oh
Um,
my goodness!
so
That
that's how
sounds,
my story began.
yeah, that
Mm.
sounds so sad actually. And
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
right, so 30 years later, I mean, yes,
So-
the what happens to us in our childhood and how we're influenced in our childhood, it can be especially
Mm.
with, well, not just with creative things, but notably with creativity, how we're encouraged and all of those seeds that are sown at that age are hugely
Mm.
influential, can be hugely influential on when and how we then develop our creativity, childhood
Excellent.
experiences, because some things get internalized. So 30 years later, what happened?
Well, I was a very shy little girl, believe it or not, and I've really come out of my shell now. I'm full powered Leo, but I do have that other side. But yeah, so in my mid 40s, I sat holding the hand of my mother-in-law, and the doctor came in and said it'll be tonight,
Oh,
expecting her to pass. And for the first time in my life, in my mid 40s, I felt alone. I felt lonely. I thought, where's my husband? Where's my mum? The two people, my key people who profess to love me, and where are they? And I shouted at God and said, look, if you're really there, do something. And the next day, she woke as though nothing had happened and lived another 2 years.
oh,
But also, I wrote my first poem and hid it. My
oh.
first poem, Complicated Love, the hidden poem. And it's in my latest book, Permission to Speak. So that was the beginning of what's going on and I don't understand. And, really looking in and daring to speak it to the page as such.
Oh, that
That was
sounds.
the beginning.
Did you show it to her?
No, I
Oh,
didn't show it to anyone for a long time. So
really?
really I wrote it and hid it because it was far too telling. It was saying to me, things aren't right in your marriage, things aren't right in your life, and you need to stick up for yourself. And so that starting to write, and that's why I'm so passionate about my Weaving Words creative writing workshops. When I go into mental health wards and encourage people to write, when I'm in the community at festivals, when people come to my studio, you know, I'm just passionate about everyone getting their story out, because it can change your life. That pen can literally be a tool for life, because I started to work my stuff out onto the
I
page.
see. Oh, so complicated. Did you say complicated love? Is that what you
Complicated Love, the hidden poem.
So
Yes.
that wasn't, so it was, you wrote it at the time when you were with your mother-in-law, but it was about your marriage, as you've
It
said.
was about everything, because for the first time in my life, I noticed those two key figures, my mum and my husband. You know, at that time when I was, you know, needing that support, where were they? And I was thinking, what's going on? And I don't understand. And I dared to express that, really. And that was the beginning of speaking up for myself and saying, hang on a moment, no. And yeah, it was the beginning of telling my truth, really.
So powerful when that process
Yeah,
starts happening, because you don't
yeah.
realize how many times you go through these thoughts and feelings in you internally, and somehow feel that it's been communicated, and it can be such a revelation when you do put pen to paper and you realize that it
Absolutely.
was never communicated. It's been whirring
That's
around
right.
inside you all that time. I identify with that, with when I first wrote my
Powerful.
first album.
It's
I kind of
powerful.
somehow assumed that your narrative or your thoughts and feelings somehow, because you've been so full of them all those years, that somehow they've got through. And it's interesting because some have, but you'd be quite a lot haven't. And I think, yes,
Yeah,
if there's a writer in there, it can be a surprise to yourself how much actually hasn't, if you've been keeping that to yourself for a while. So tell us,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, tell us more about so you said you've put it into your book, Permission to Speak. So tell us more about the
Yeah.
book. So yeah.
Yeah, so the book, I mean, I have got a poem called Permission to Speak, and I am passionate about people, encouraging people to write, but also just to be creative, because quite often you become adults and then it all gets a little bit sensible and grown up, and that playful side of splashing some paint or dancing in the kitchen or singing out loud, and it can all get suppressed. And it's so important to express and get it out creatively for everybody, you
Yes.
know. So I do help run retreats, seasonal retreats, where people can express and get stuff out in all sorts of different forms. And it's just that loving yourself enough and daring enough and being creative. Yeah, so the book, so what happened was, I was writing these poems and I dared to show them to my friend. And she said, Kez, you know, we've got this burlesque and belly dancing event and we need someone to perform some poems while we change. Will you do it? And
Oh,
I just said, yes.
yes. Isn't that a lovely feeling when you say,
Oh
yeah,
my
when you
goodness.
change from, oh, I couldn't possibly, no one's ever going to, just not overthinking and going from that to yes. It's quite, it's so liberating, isn't it?
It is. And I stood on the stage. There was 100 people in the little Playhouse Theatre, little vaudeville theatre in Northampton, and my right leg shook. Fortunately, I could only see the front row because of the lighting. And I performed these small sets of poetry, and everyone loved them. And they said,
Oh,
do you have a book? And I said, I don't. And so I had a year of sort of learning my craft, really, of open mics and what works, what doesn't work, and pausing and taking my time. And then a year later, they invited me back to do 2 nights and paid me. But this time I took a little booklet with me called Truly Me, and that had
oh,
poems in it, and that was the beginning. And then after that, after my husband and I, sadly, we split, um, and I was a youth leader, and that was work that I'd stopped doing. My kids were teenagers, so the next book I wrote was Kezzabelle Glory with extra sauce, and that was all the things, all the naughty and mischief came out.
I love
So
that word. Presumably, well, I don't know. I may find it in the dictionary. Maybe not now, but maybe in a few
I
years.
made it up. I made it up.
Never.
Because there's a thing
I
called a
love it.
Knickerbocker Glory. You know, there's a Knickerbocker Glory, the big tall ice
Love
cream
it.
with all the layers. And I thought it's a Kezzabelle Glory because actually,
Fabulous.
when there's the picture is a little bit naughty of me with just gently holding this extremely huge dessert, and a little bit saucy, the bright red cover, and it was daring to say things that I
Oh,
hadn't said before.
isn't that
You know,
gorgeous? And I love the playfulness as well, because
mm.
it is, you use the word daring, it can be, and you've also said shyness and hidden, and there is a daring, there's a courage, and there's a fear. And I love that you have brought all of that, included that. You haven't excluded those feelings, but you brought
No.
into that the fun and the wit and the play.
Kezzabelle Glory, yes.
Knickerbocker Glory, it was that.
Kezzabelle Glory, yeah.
I remember those, Knickerbocker Glories, I think they were called. Right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But
all
see,
these cream and all the extras. Yeah, very, very flamboyant and indulgent and expressive. Yes, absolutely. Fantastic.
But
So that,
when I'm on stage in my tutu and wings and performing the poem Three Wishes and all that, what I wanted to show in the Knickerbocker Glory or Kezzabelle Glory was that actually there's many layers. So there is the shy side, there is that side that you think, oh, and I wanted to show that there's all the froth on the top and the sprinkles but actually there's also those other layers. And that's what I wanted to show, the many layers.
So with those books, you said Truly Me. So what were your themes? Were you using yourself, which is very common for artists to use to explore, because there's a real authenticity when we talk about our own experiences, because we go into the particular, and then it hopefully it resonates with more people. So was there the focus on your own experiences that you were sharing as writing theme, or did you explore other things that were maybe close to your heart, or other themes?
It was a mix. So it was observations, outward and inward. It was a real mix, but also I was a little careful of what I put out there, because the first book sold was to my ex-husband, and I didn't want to hurt any feelings, and so I was a little careful on that first book. And also my teenagers, I'd been married for 31 years and everyone was shocked that we had split up. And so I was a little bit sort of gentle and being thoughtful about what went in Truly Me.
Oh, that's lovely.
But then Kezzabelle Glory, I asked the printers to put the 4 naughty poems in the middle, so that if the little old lady at church said, "Can I have your second book?" I could yank out those scallywag 4 ones and I'd get away with it.
Strategic positioning. But it's also interesting that you said that, because there is that consideration where you want to be true to yourself and express yourself, but then I love that there was a thoughtfulness also because there's also something very daring when you read books or you read poetry that where people have expressed it can be clearly evident, or they may say in interviews that it's about a previous relationship or a relationship that was wonderful, but when it didn't go the way, and there can be all sorts of things, and that can also be some of the best writing that you would read. But as the actual author of that writing, it must be a real consideration or conflict, or there must be a lot of processing that goes around that, because at the one point you want to be true to yourself, but you also that being true to yourself is also considering being thoughtful to others, if you are a thoughtful person in that way. But it's a fine balance. Well, it's not, it's a consideration, seriously. So you obviously felt made your peace with what you did do, but you have any kind of, were there moments where you thought, I wonder if I played too safe there? Have I honored how I do actually feel?
You know what? When I write, I write everything. And I don't self-edit, and that's when I run my Weaving Words, I always say, right, let's do a stream of consciousness. So let's literally empty our heads onto the page. No editing, no nothing. Now, what you choose to do with that is up to you. You may turn the page and never look at it again and go, phew, that's got that off my chest. Or you might pull out some keywords or an idea, and it might be the foundation of a piece or a poem or a song or whatever, and you might develop it or edit it or add to it. you know. And so with that first book, none of those poems were dumbed down or changed. But I waited until the second and third book before I put those truths out there. When the water was a calmer thing, people had moved on, my teenagers had grown up a little. It was just that. So I don't write for other people as such, unless I'm commissioned to write. You know, sometimes I'm commissioned to write a piece for, you know, so for example, in the depths of sadness last year when my father had passed, I was commissioned to write a poem for Facebook App UK, and it was for the Women's International, World International Day, Women's International Day, and World Poetry Day. And so I had to, and they wanted 30 words. And I'm a chatterbox, so 30 words. So in that depth of sadness, then was the extreme high. So that is what I've found in some of the real tough times. There's those amazing blessings as well.
Can you share a few of the lines from that poem?
Yes, of course. Here we go.
I was going to have a look on your website.
Yeah,
thought, actually, you're right here. Why don't I just stop?
Do go onto my YouTube and sign up. So it's literally 30 words, and it starts like this. I am woman, daughter, mother, sister, lover, grandmother, family, smiler, hugger, storyteller, blessing naturally, word weaver, hope giver, encourager, friend to many, creative choices, freedom voices, permission to speak, loving me. That's it.
Oh, that is just such a tonic. It's really, it feels really healing.
Thank you. And the new book coming out in
healing, and I mean that's my, just what I kind of get from that. And as you said, the liberation there, but also you managed to, as you said, for someone that likes to chat, you've managed to encapsulate it. It's such to edit and to encapsulate. It's such a skill in itself, isn't it?
So quite a discipline, isn't it?
It is a discipline when the free flow is chatty. And so how do you go through that process? So is it because you said creative writing, so presumably you've got your performance poet. Do you do longer pieces as well, or is it all around the poetry? You do longer pieces as well. Yeah. So how do you find that editing process?
I've got a one-woman show. It's an hour show, and I have music supporting me. And that's starting with my new book in May. And the new book is called Permission to Love Yourself. Because I discovered through lockdown and all that was the foundation. That was so important, because a lot of people were looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, who are you? You know, they had time with themselves.
They had so much time with themselves.
Yeah.
To look in the mirror, and there was so much reevaluation going on. To think, there was enough time to think, what am I doing? What is the meaning here? Is this what I want to do? Yeah. Well, yes, but there was lots of reflection going on. So permission to love yourself. And tell us all about, you're telling us about that now. It's a one-woman show, and there's presumably a lot of, I don't know if you check out Jenny's interview from last week, if you haven't already. She's doing a one-woman show. Yeah, she's doing a one-woman show called Mother's Ruin, which she's a cabaret artist. Yeah, check it out. Check that out. Come and see it if you're around 20th of May. But we're chatting about you. In fact, I'm gonna flip to this, and then I'm going to come back. So I want to know about your one-woman show. So just for those that don't know, Permission to Speak, book and CD, which is going to be fascinating. I'm going to be getting this. But tell us more about the one-woman show then. So when is that starting? And
So I started, the one-woman show for Permission to Speak started, and then we had lockdown. So that got cut. So, but now the new book's coming, and so the one woman show will be from my new book, Permission to Love Yourself, and also some of the work from Permission to Speak.
I see, right. So
And I'm in
prolific.
the recording studio recording with my sound guy Nudge, and so we will have a download audio again and a CD again for the new book as well. So it's very exciting. It's very and hard work.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. I'm not just hard work, but I'm hearing the amount of it requires a discipline, and it requires that commitment, because you obviously there's prolific, I think that's the right word. I kind of use it sometimes. I use words, I don't quite know what they mean, but that means it's industrious, isn't it? Or is it kind of productive? And so how is that for you? How is that writing process? I can see there's such a passion there, but every creative person, there is their discipline in their own process. What's yours? How do you find that?
Absolutely. Well, I do have a wonderful sort of tribe around me that kick my ass and encourage me as well. so the publisher, we've got the book cover designed. I performed in Amsterdam for Soul Food Poetry, and an amazing photographer caught me mid-twirl as I was poeting. It's a new word. And so that's going to be used for the cover. Making it work. Yeah. And I'm just sorting out the order now, and we're almost there with that. But also between the lockdowns, we did 5 days filming, and there's a film called A Weaving Words Experience, and that is 20 workshops where you watch, pause and write, because not everyone can join you at the live Weaving Words workshops. And that's being made into an app right now, so that people can have it on their phone and watch, pause and write.
Wonderful.
So,
right.
Yeah, working hard.
Absolutely. Again, we're kind of alighting on all of them as we chat. So I was asking you what permission. Well, it's evident, self-explanatory in some ways, permission to love yourself. But I'm still curious to find out a little bit more how especially as it was a whole book, what kind of themes you touched on in the book, and what kind of ways, because there can be a million ways. There's a Sia album which was called a million Ways to Love, I think, or something. So in the Permission to Love Yourself, what components can you tell us about, or if it's not giving too many spoilers?
So they sort of came naturally, really. So I've been part of lots of different projects. I was part of the Stephen Lawrence project, encouraging young people to write and get their stories out. And so that was, again, beginning of lockdown. So instead of them performing, we all made small films, and I helped them edit. And so from that, I wrote a piece as well. So then there's that poem. And then I was part of a Sirens project with Live Talk. And there was 4 gurus, and they told you to experience either to sit within a tree and feel what it felt like to be in that tree, or to lay naked on the ground and be rained upon, or there was all these different things you could try. So I went into my garden early Sunday morning naked and thought, well, where do I lay? Because you would normally put a rug down, wouldn't you? And I saw a white feather, and I picked it up and I lay down. And it just felt, especially with it being Sunday, you felt like you were on nature's altar as such. It was incredible. And a little breeze went over my tummy, and I felt I'd been tucked in. I turned over and smelt grass. It was like I'd never smelt grass in my life. So that experience ended up being the poem, Connecting with Nature, and that's on YouTube as well. And a very wonderful videographer that works with me, and we put on pieces at art exhibitions as well. And he came and we redid that experience, and he filmed it, and that's on YouTube. But those special times, that's not a commission, that's a whole experience that you just want to share with everyone and say, you must have your bare feet on the ground and you must feel that earth and experiences. It's amazing. So it's that sort of thing. And another poem that I've written for the new book called Emergency Muse was when I was desperate to hug. I'm a big hugger, and all I could do is use my words. And so the first stanza begins, let me wrap my words around you.
Oh,
soothe with
gorgeous.
syllables and TLC, hold you safely in my prose to heal today's life malady. And that
Oh, that's,
continues,
oh my goodness, that's
you
gorgeous.
know.
This is so moving. I can burst into tears in a minute. Honestly, Kezzabelle, this is really so inspiring and moving and just
Oh,
it's all the things, which doesn't sound particularly articulate and poetic at all, but it
but there's also the naughty poems as well. There's the naughty poems like Retro Afro Muff and to depilate or not to depilate, that is the question. Those sort of poems are funny and silly.
Well, they do sound funny and silly. Well, I'm very curious to read those as well. And so, yeah, you've touched through the conversation that we've just been having. You've touched a little bit woven into it. Your what do you call it? Weaving words. So just
Weaving
do tell
words,
us about
yeah,
that as well. So those are workshops that you run, retreats, right?
that's right. So every Tuesday afternoon, 1 till 3, literally word weavers come around my table and we eat vegan fruity flapjack and everyone has different teas and we're also online. So there's people from Bristol, Mauritius, from the east coast of Britain, and they all come and join as well as in person. And we write. So we start with a stream of consciousness. You know, we may laugh, we may cry, all that we may be slightly naughty and inappropriate. And then so we do the stream of consciousness and then we have a prompt. And as I say, we're sipping tea, we're writing, we're eating fruits and nuts, and it's beautiful. And I do that on a Tuesday afternoon and the last Thursday of the month, as well as in the mental health wards. And also for Johnny's Happy Place on a Sunday. So I've got a new project starting at the Hope Centre in Northampton, because when I was voted Bard of Northampton in September,
I
I
saw
had different
that. I
things.
wasn't sure if that was
Yes,
your. Yeah, I didn't know it was a voted in position. Isn't that
yes, yes,
wonderful? What a
yes.
title.
The Bard of Northampton.
It's
All hail the
wonderful.
Bard.
It's wonderful.
So the Hope Centre, I do some voluntary stuff there where I run a workshop there, and it's for people that are homeless or with addictions. But from that now is coming some work where I'll be working on the allotments, and it's like ecotherapy actually. So we'll be in the polytunnels and in the sheds, and again feet on the earth and fires, and we'll be writing there. So I'm just doing all the things I absolutely love,
Oh,
but
Kezzabelle.
encouraging others to do it as well.
Kezzabella, I'm like completely inspired. I'm just really it sounds so wonderful. You're involved in so many gorgeous projects and
I love
projects
it.
where you're supporting others' well-being through using your talent, and it's truly inspiring and an absolute blessing to hear that this morning, and
Thank
for
you.
everybody that's going to listen to this. And I really want to thank you so very much for taking the time to
Thank
come and chat.
you.
I could talk to you really all day, and I think those. I mean, I could. Well, I say to talk. I could listen to you all day. I could listen to you all day because it's just free flowing. Clearly that creativity is oozing out of your every pore, and you're really and you're sharing it. There's so much contribution there, which seems to be very very natural for you. But also, I mean, you did mention the discipline. And you did mention that you have a team around you as well. So I know that. But the result is that there's so much expression of your creativity, and for that I am really really inspired, and thank you so very much for coming and
Thank
chatting this
you.
morning. And and I'll put your links. I'll put the links for everybody that wants to
Thank you.
wants to come and see your one woman show, Permission to Love Yourself, and the book Permission to Speak, and the workshops and all the other things. I can't remember. There was so many. They're all in this interview.
There's the app and
Replay it,
coming.
people.
Yeah.
Replay it, and and I look forward to. I'm going to come and see Permission to Love Yourself. Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm going to
yes.
come see that at the very
We're
least.
starting down south in May, and in September we've got a little tour, but further up north. So
Okay.
we're sort of
All right.
it's all getting
Okay.
booked up.
Look forward to
Yay.
it. Thank you so very much, and
Thank you for
yeah,
having me,
look
Anna.
forward to it all. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. God bless.
Bye.